We are at a point in this entire process that is probably going to test your patience the most. It's also really important about how you go about the next few steps. In this video, we'll go over accepting offers from different facilities and even talk about the mysterious bill rate. Hi, I'm John. I've been in this travel nurse gig for around 6 years now, and it's been a blast. I have been all over the country with my entire family. We have seen and explored so much, and I'm so thankful that travel nursing has afforded me the ability to do that. Getting offers back on places that you have submitted to is exciting, and it's also kind of nerve-wracking because I'll be honest with you, you're gonna have to have patience. Sometimes for a first-time traveler, getting that very first offer back is going to take a little while. As I said before, do not submit to something that you're not willing to work. If you plan on taking a contract over here and they're the ones that call back first, that's the contract that you should take first. You do have a little bit of time that you can wait, but don't wait long. The market will dictate how long you can wait. So sometimes it may just be a few hours. Sometimes it might be up to 24. Talk with your recruiter and they'll give you a good idea of how much time you might have. Generally speaking though, the sooner that you secure a contract, the better it's gonna be for you. It is imperative that as soon as you accept a contract, you tell the other recruiters that you're working with. That way they can pull your active submissions to other jobs so that that one that you're working with gets started. If a travel nurse accepts a contract with one agency and doesn't tell any of the others about it in hopes that they're gonna get a better contract later, and then they just cancel this one over here, that is so unacceptable and is not a practice that should be condoned. The reason for that is that that hospital and even the agency that they're working with already has started the entire process of getting you onboarded to the facility. So compliance and all the people within your agency are doing their best to make sure all the documents are sent over and everything is set up and ready to go. The managers at the hospital have told all of the other agencies and all of the other applicants for that travel position that it's been filled. So everything kind of puts on hold. Don't do this, you guys. It's not a good practice. Yes, it doesn't really affect us much, but did you know that it can significantly affect the recruiter that's working with you? Oftentimes the facility charges the vendor fees and the vendor charges the agency fees, and those fees trickle all the way down to the recruiter. And a lot of travel nurses don't know that. Don't be one of these people. Don't do this. I often see this asked about in travel nursing forums, especially by newbies, just because they don't understand. Well, I'm here to tell you, it's a crappy practice. Don't do it. Deep breath here. We're about to talk about something that is quite controversial in the travel nurse world and somewhat mysterious. It is also discussed ad nauseum. We're talking about the bill rate. Bill rate, by definition, is the hourly pay rate that the hospital has agreed to pay the agency for the entire contract. It is occasionally disclosed to the traveler, but often not. Enter the controversy. Many agencies and recruiters truly believe that disclosing this information to the traveler basically accomplishes next to nothing, except for creating problems and misunderstandings. And while I still kind of agree with that, I feel like it's kind of important for at least the traveler to understand what it is and how it works. Controversy comes from when the traveler learns what the bill rate is and then compares it to their hourly take-home rate. It makes it look like the agency is pocketing quite a bit of money, but that's not really the case. Agency bill rates will vary between different agencies too, which is often a controversy on the travel nurse's side. It's easy to say that this contract over here with this agency pays this much, where the same contract over here with this agency pays a little bit less, or maybe a little bit more. And the reasons for that are also kind of complicated. They include things like the contract that the agency negotiates with the hospital, third-party vendor fees, and facilities allowing or not allowing for the billing of orientation hours. So sometimes when a traveler starts a new contract, that very first week that they're there doing orientation, the agency does not get paid for it. It is not considered part of the bill rate. Yet the agency knows that they have to pay the traveler for that. So it comes into account. The important thing as a travel nurse that you need to understand is that any payment, any form of money that you obtain from the agency on contract is going to come from the bill rate total. That means any reimbursements that you get for licensure, any reimbursements that you get for things like scrubs or certifications or anything like that when you're on contract, that money is coming directly out of the bill rate. Also, the stipends and the hourly taxable wage are also still coming from the bill rate. When we talked earlier about negotiations and how you can kind of change that, maybe you want a higher stipend for the tax-free money, you can lower the hourly wage a little bit. Those are things you can talk to your recruiter about. All that money is still coming from the same place, which is the total of the bill rate. The second most important thing to understand is that that agency is not pocketing the entirety of all of this extra money. They're gonna have fees and things just like any other employer out there. Then they have the profit margin, and that's usually gonna be anywhere from like 3 to 12% of the total bill rate. If you want my opinion, I like to know the bill rate not because of how much money I'm going or what piece of the pie I'm getting, but because I'm wanting to see if the agency is willing to be open and honest about it. Keeping in mind that there are some vendors that do require the agencies to not disclose this information. If that is the case, and a recruiter was working with me and said, look, I'd love to tell you, but we've signed a non-disclosure agreement and I literally just can't. Okay, no problem with that. But if they're just not disclosing it, then what do they have to hide and what are they worried about? I get it. There are a lot of recruiters out there that do not like to talk about this. It is a topic that is brought up so often on travel nursing newbies and different forums out there that it's just, you can really see how many people do not understand how it works. And I know that when it's brought up, if a traveler isn't willing to sift through how it all goes, it is very confusing. And this video is just scratching the surface of how it all works, you guys. I do feel like it's important for us to know and understand at least a little bit about what it is though. If you're working with a recruiter who is hesitant to tell you, it's because it's just a difficult concept to explain. And maybe they don't want to muddy the waters or potentially hurt the relationship they're trying to build with you by kind of going down that path. Bottom line is, don't sweat it, you guys. If you figure out what the bill rate is, then great. If you don't worry about it. The bottom line is that, is it gonna be a good contract for you? And there are so many different variables to what that means. If you're all about the money, great, then you're all about the money. If you're about the destination or the experience though, the bill rates and how much money you're gonna make on contract may not be as important for you. It goes back to that trifecta. Is it about the location and the adventure? Is it about the money that you're gonna make? Everyone's got different priorities, so don't let this be a hang-up for you. How do you know if it's a good contract? Well, there is a way that you can go onto the government's GSA site where you're basically comparing that plus salary.com and seeing if you are figuring out what you're making based on what the actual salary of the staff nurse is making, and then you're comparing the government's GSA website data for per diem rates to what your contracted rates are to figure that out, and then you got to factor in your taxes and your 25% and all this kind of stuff and make these different... Anyway, there's ways to do it, you guys. It's kind of complicated. Not to knock anybody or anything that's done that to try to figure that out. I think if you're the kind of traveler who really wants to be able to compare stuff, that's wonderful. I will say that the market changes though, and that where you are right now versus where we were 3 years ago versus where we might be 3 more years in the future is going to be different, and those rates are going to change all the time. I've never really been a fan of using the calculation thing because it only really takes in one aspect of the trifecta. Me and my family have always really been more about the adventure and the destination that travel nursing brings. To me, and this is just me, it can be different for you, but for me, the excitement of being able to go and visit different places and live like I'm on a permanent vacation outweighs all of that. And if the contract is going to still be able for me to afford to be able to do all of it, then I'm happy. But that's me and mine, and you might be somebody that's different, that's really chasing the money, and there's nothing wrong with that. The point of all of this is that it's all subjective, and so you're gonna have to look at it and kind of judge things based on where you are personally to figure out if it's gonna be a good contract or not. If you are chasing after the money, the contract and the numbers of the contract are not the only factor that plays into it all too, because housing can also play into that, so can the cost of living in the general area. And you can make up some of that money with smart decisions that way. Which brings me to the next video that we're coming up next week, and that is all about housing and securing it and what to look for in tips and tricks. So stick around, I'm excited about it, and it might not just be me droning about it either. You'll have to stick around and see.